Hey, everybody.
Hey everybody, how are you this Sunday night? I know I'm stressed out, but I'm not going to let the world stress me out. But with that being said, welcome. Now, in the future, later, we're going to have a conversation. But before we get into that conversation about what's going on in politics today, right? We're just going to do some intros. We're going to do some welcomes, and we're just going to tell everybody what to do. Go ahead, Liz.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Happy Sunday. We love being here with you. We love that you're here with us. Please like, subscribe, and share. We are on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, on Facebook. I mean, you can find us, right? And when you find us, share, right? And so we really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in faithfully every week. We have an exciting topic. We look forward to engaging with you and having you comment in the comments section and everything that has to do with the show. So thank you again. What I'm going to do is actually toss back to Kia. Were we doing current events with Kia this week?
Well, you know what's so interesting because because the current event that we have going on is actually what we will be talking about. I seen Charles drop. I know he's going to log back on. Sorry for the
Mhm.
technical difficulties with that. Let me bring him back into the chat. Um, the current events is what's happening. You know, it's interesting because normally when I talk to you guys, I'm talking about, you know, what's happening. And what's happening is when you turn on every news channel, we're seeing buildings being blown up. We're seeing kids in subway stations. We're seeing Nigerians not being allowed to get on the train to get out of the Ukraine. If you haven't, been turning on the news, because I know some people haven't been watching the news, Russia has invaded the Ukraine. And there's a lot of people that don't know the history, why. I've heard a lot of people like, hey, what is this even all about? I had to bring Charles on just to kind of do that brief overview because I got tired of talking. Thanks for kind of letting us know what's going on and just kind of bringing us up to how do we get to this part of now Russia is like, fuck it, we're coming in there and we don't care what people are saying. How do we even get there?
Hmm.
Well, basically, you have to take it back to 1991. All
Mm-hmm.
right. In 91, Ukraine was part of what was then known as the Soviet Union, and the Supreme Soviet, which is basically like their form of parliament or Congress. The Supreme Soviet agreed to allow Ukraine to pretty much become a de facto independent government. With the complete collapse of the Soviet Union, they in fact did become their own republic, um, and they have kind of been in this uneasy balance between Western Europe and the old Soviet bloc countries, which they're part of. Within the recent years, they've been trying to remove themselves from that network of the old Soviet bloc countries and trying to ally themselves more with NATO. Um, Not only militaristically with NATO, but also become part of the EU. So they've been petitioning. They want to be part of the EU. They want to be part of NATO. They want to be part of the Western global structure for their country. And Putin, who is a former lieutenant general in the KGB, former member of the Soviet structure of military structure, is against that. So and this keeping there's other little intricacies here and there, bad blood from the Cossack era, yada yada yada. We know, but that's the basic general gist of it, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
he does not want them joining NATO. He does not want them joining the EU. He does not want them joining the Western bloc of financial structure. And this is basically his big threat, his big push, whatever, to go ahead and seize that. On the one little small caveat on that, whatever, is that Putin has been quoted several times, whatever, that he wants to go ahead and reunite what was all once known as Russia, what was once known as the Soviet Empire, right? The Soviet Union. So the Russian Empire, Soviet Union, he wants to bring all that back to what it used to be, which is very similar to what China's trying to do. Okay, so they both have very, very similar mentality of trying to recapture everything that used to be once theirs, quote unquote, and that's the basic general gist of it.
So,
Keeping it
so no. So with that being said, and I'm gonna introduce everybody to Rashawn, and we definitely will drop your, because I know you have your own podcast and everything, so we'll do that at the end. But I wanted to bring you on because I know on your show you talk about it yourself, and you've been kind of on it while everybody else was like, let's talk about something else. Why is this topic in general just important to you?
Well, what makes it important is because, for one, we know like war. What does war bring?
Mm-hmm.
What does war do to your economy?
Mm.
So my issue was we don't need to go. We didn't need to be. The United States didn't need to poke our nose in this one because we already dealing with inflation. We already having our problems as the rest of the world are dealing with issues. Uh, I can't even say post COVID because no one said we're done with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that was my issue. Like, hey, we don't need to go there because we have inflation going on already, and war is going to make it. If we're paying $4 a gallon for gas now, well, you just wait until tonight.
Yeah.
So, I was like, nah, we don't need that. We gotta we gotta balance out our thing. We seen what happened when we were in Afghanistan, and how many years were we in Afghanistan? And I felt like we shouldn't have been there that long, but we got stuck there. My opinion,
Yeah.
just just a civilian on the outside, just looking in at that situation. So I'm like, no, we don't need to be there. And it's like, well, Russia
Well,
is like,
let me let me just say this, and that's another reason why I brought Charles in, because of course Charles is, was in the military, and
right,
it definitely served longer than I have.
mm,
I felt in this situation America does need to cry some compared to other scenarios
okay,
where America should be minding their business, because
sure,
we always do have our hand in the pot. But in reference to your background, Charles, is there a reason why we should be involved in this? I know we are part of NATO, and if you could explain a little bit of that, or do you think it should be like, okay, that's their, like, what's your gist on that? Like, should we be kind of, dabbling? I mean, in my opinion, we should, for him, just because of Putin.
mm,
All right. So basically, NATO was formed at the conclusion of World War II, as a means of counteracting the USSR. All right. The USSR under Stalin was very, very expansionist, and they thought at that particular point in time that that the communists, which helped. If you study how Nazism started in Germany, it was to counteract communism. All right. So of course, it took an entire extreme, totally different extreme. And when you add on the other agendas of all the other players that came in there, but it started off with the free course of the free German military companies that were from left over from World War One. They became the backbone of the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party ended up counteracting communism, and so everyone had this big fear of communism. So that was essentially why NATO was eventually formed at the conclusion of World War II.
Okay.
A little too much history there, but All right. So
it's always needed though. The more that you give, the more the people understand.
That's true. So basically, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, whatever, is designed to protect Europe as a defensive treaty against any and all attacks upon Europe or upon members of NATO, which include the United States and Canada. Now, should we be involved in the Ukraine? The answer is yes, for one reason and one reason only. Anything that every time Europe blows up, the entire world suffers. Okay, and
Right.
we saw it in World War One, we saw it in World War Two. We saw it in the 90s with the Serbian Kosovo wars. Okay, anytime Europe is unstable, the rest of the world suffers immensely, and there's a reason for that. It's because the world economic structure is all built within actually Europe and the United States. Okay, we're talking about from the age of colonialism, the age of imperialism. All that stuff feeds back into Europe. Okay, when you have countries to this day that are still paying back debt, colonial debt from the 1800s. Okay, all money leads to fucking Europe. Okay, in some capacity, one way or the other. So even though Eastern Europe was not involved in a lot of the terrible things that happened to, like, I know some African Americans say, "Oh, has nothing to do with me," whatever. Okay, Eastern Europe was not involved in the slave trade. Eastern Europe was not involved in that. They had their own issues with the Turks, right? But however, the fact remains is anytime Europe is unstable, the world's fucked. The world is seriously fucked. So
Right.
listen, there has to be some form of stability. Now, does that mean ground troops in the Ukraine? No, it does not. We don't need to see American soldiers and Russian soldiers fighting. Okay, with the exception of the Spetsnaz, I'm 100% confident that we'll roll over Russia like that. Okay, but the fact remains, Russia has nukes, and then Russia has an alliance with China, a defensive alliance with China, whatever. Okay, and the minute we cross over a certain parallel, that alliance very possibly can be activated, and I can talk about a war that's even larger than the first two world wars. So some form of
Right.
check has to be placed on Putin. Does that mean, again, soldiers, U.S. soldiers on the ground, NATO forces on the ground? I say no. Okay, we should not go to that level just yet.
So, Liz, I'm going to go to the comments, and then, of course, if anybody else, we could chime in, because, I'll start asking questions for days.
All right. So Earl chimed in tonight. He said, "I'm frying my fish and living my life. They are doing what they do."
So maybe we got some hot sauce.
Enjoy your fish, Earl.
We need that hot sauce for that fish.
Let them do what they do, right? And so Cash said, "Glad to see you on for this one, Charles." So
Right.
Yeah.
And Z says, "Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
Hey.
Z."
Good evening.
And then Cash said, "We need that history. That's what we came for." So don't shy
Well,
away from Charles. So
I want to.
Let's do the last comment, and then you can chime in, Rashawn.
And
Okay.
then Ryan said, "The average person doesn't know the pandemic, inflation, job loss, business closure, supply chain issues, and war are all components of the Great Reset." So we got.
What was you going to say, Rashawn?
The great cosmic sneak. All right.
There's a couple things I don't want to jump ahead, but it's two things.
Mhm.
One, it's like this. I don't understand this. I don't understand why we picking a side, because in actuality, Russia is our 26th trade partner. We make over 20 something billion dollars with Russia in trade. Ukraine, we only make about 2 billion, maybe a little over 2 billion in trade with them. So it's like you're going against your biggest trade partner. That's like you doing business and you're gonna cut the hand of your supplier, that your biggest supplier. So you're gonna go and cut the hand of go against your biggest supplier to jump behind the smaller supplier. Like,
Well,
you're gonna cause disruption.
it kind of works like. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, so you're gonna, and then the other thing is, what I want to ask everybody: what is a committee? When you have a committee, what is a committee? Inside of a corporation, what does the committee do?
They all kind of agree upon whatever needs to take place.
Well, first, I want to tackle the first thing you said.
Okay.
Okay. So when you deal with trade partners, let's
Right.
take Russia and America, right? We are adamantly against each other, but the money still moves.
Right.
So they can shoot me and I can shoot them, but the money's still the money. So that's
Right.
a whole separate thing. You got to understand it's never personal. So, but how Russia sells, let's say their oil, they sell their oil with the dollar, right? So we could fight them and we could drop bombs on them, but when they want to sell their oil, they still got to transfer a ruble to a dollar to sell it. So
Right.
it's a lot of levels to this. But let's say we turn our back on Europe, which is our ally. Then that's like you saying, I'm about to fight these 10 dudes and these my boys, but I don't fuck with my boys no more. So I'm gonna just do it by myself. You'll
Right.
get your ass kicked, right?
Oh,
So you got to understand that Ukraine is the beginning with Russia, not really the beginning because they've been working this for like at least like with that Ukraine angle for like at least 20 years. But them doing that is them moving westward and toppling countries, which is Europe. And like Charles said, when you mess with Europe, you mess with the money. You mess with the whole world's economy because the whole world economy either trades in like the euro or the dollar. And if something happens over there, it happens here. So a lot of people like this, a lot of Americans, because a lot of Americans are ignorant to the whole world. The world is not ignorant to the world. Americans are generally ignorant to the world and generally even parts of America.
Mm-hmm.
But that will directly affect us from gas, all of that. When this is happening, gas is about to go up anyway. So
it's up, yeah.
Because as soon as you cut off that gas and all that stuff, it's going to go up. Speculators going to say something and gas is going to go up. So we are in it. We cannot at this point of the game say we want to be part of it. That's not how it works when you're that involved. When the world economy touches everybody, you can't really say I want to be in it right now.
So Liz, do you feel, because I know
Go ahead.
Charles and I, kind of talk on the side, but do you feel that we as America we've got punked? And I mean by that is because Biden used to say, hey, you go ahead and do this, Putin, I'm going to put these sanctions, going to be some fierce things happening. Okay, you make one more move. And he kept like saying these threats. And then Putin's like, whatever. And then as you can clearly see, we're here now. They said that there have been numerous casualties, civilian and troops on the Ukrainian side. I mean, do you feel like, what do we do? I mean, do you think that the sanctions that he put on Putin currently in reference to the being a part of the SWIFT, do you think that is enough? Do you think, okay, that's going to be something good? Because supposedly they say that on the news within 72 hours, we're going to see his next move because they're like, that is going to shake up some things. Do you feel that's the best thing we should have did? We should have been done something?
Yeah, the sanctions are nearly laughable, right? But I will say, I mean, how do you put sanctions on somebody that acts as a king, right? So it's different. If you're here in the United States, for example, our banks work a certain way and everything else. He runs the banks. He owns the banks. He runs the money. He runs everything. So is he going to go to the bank and try to withdraw $20 and the bank is like, nah, the U.S. said we can't do that? That's not a thing. You know what I mean? That's literally, it's not a thing. The sanctions are kind of a joke. I mean, are the Russian people going to feel it a little bit eventually? Yes. But Putin's kind of on a mission. And, they keep talking about it like he's some madman or whatever the case is. Yeah, the problem is you really can't fuck with crazy people. That's what they are. It's crazy, right? And this has been like a long time coming. You know what I mean? Now, our Specs kind of touched on something when he said that American people, we're still caught up on, America first and America only, and we need to only worry about America. The problem is that a lot of that has been kind of fed to us by the people that want us blind to what else is going on, right? So while we continuously shit on this side of the world, we have the brown countries, if you would, right? And so, build the wall and keep them out and they're disgusting and, whatever else. It's funny because China and Russia have been investing endlessly in Central and South America. They have the leaders that they want in place down there. They have bases, they have businesses, they have all kinds of things, which when you think about it, we don't want to fight Russia over there. They're on our doorstep. They're right here. They are in the backyard. And so while we don't want to check them and they continue to grow from Russia into Europe and on, when World War III for real kind of kicks off, they're knocking. The same way Japan came in, they're like, yo, we'll take Hawaii. Russia's like, yo, we'll take Texas. And China is like, yo, we'll take California.
So based upon what Charles mentioned about the history, right? So he talked about NATO and how we, we kind of are involved in reference to this situation. And in my opinion, I think the sanctions are a joke. What do you think, Charles, would be like right now? Boom, you became leader of the free country. You are the president of the United States, and you get to make that decision. What would you have? What were you doing now? Because of course we can blame the Republicans, right? Because they lifted some of the sanctions. We can blame Barack, we can blame Biden, we can blame all the people down the line. But at this very moment, Trump, all of them. But at this very moment, what do you think is needed to kind of get this man in check? Because at this moment, guys, when I talked about current events in the last 4 hours, Putin came out and he was like, hey, let's get our nuclear defense on high alert. The fact that you're even using those words are like, wait, what are we living in, crazy man? Like, so in reference to you, Charles, you became president. And because I even see in the comments, which you'll read in a second, the sanctions are a joke, which I think they are too. What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just real quickly, whatever, the leash was let off on Putin underneath the Obama administration. Okay, Obama failed to check the annexation of Crimea, and that right there was basically him saying, "I will do what the fuck I want, and you will do nothing to stop me." All right. Of course, then we got Trump, basically being, on his knee pads, with everything we're dealing with Putin. You know what I'm saying? Ass kissing left and right, and then again we have Biden, who's not being decisive. Okay. And wishy-washy. Now, do sanctions work? Yes, they do. However, sanctions do not work immediately. And this is what Biden was trying to say earlier. Okay. The Russian economy, the United States and European partners can crush the Russian economy. The Russian economy can be tanked within a period of 1 year. The problem is, do we have 1 year? Okay. And that's the issue. We don't have 1 year. Okay? The SWIFT system, which is what everyone is all up in the news right now, whatever, okay, which is basically, think of it, for those who don't, understand, international trade and finance, whatever, think of it as Cash App for large global organizations and governments, whatever, okay? I want to be able to send you, buku zillion dollars, whatever, you know what I'm saying, because of I'm buying something for you, whatever, we can do this big transaction. It's instantaneous, whatever, the money's transferred, boom, 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 right?
Okay.
With them being kicked out of that, and again, it's slow. Okay, that forces the Russian banks to now go back to the old way of trading, which is paper. I have to print, I have to ship it out, I have to wait to receive my check in the mail. Right? Okay. That means debts begin to pile up. That means all these other things begin to pile up. However, that takes time. So sanctions, while they are effective, can take up to 3 to 4 months to really show on a global scale, especially if you have an organization where you have a country like Russia having a backdoor neighbor in China able to feed them. Now, what can actually be done? All right. The biggest thing, thoughts on digital currency. Okay, I just want to brought about Bitcoin. Okay, I'll comment that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll come to the comments in a second. Go ahead.
Right. The key thing, which should have been done just prior to this invasion, okay, was the establishment of air dominance by the United States and by NATO. We have the entire power of annihilating the Russian Air Force within 2 to 3 days. The Air Force is antiquated. Their Air Force cannot compete with ours. Whatever. Okay. I'm seeing myself frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Everything's fine.
Right. Okay. So the establishment of a serious no-fly zone, which is what we established in Syria. We established a no-fly zone in Syria. All right. Russian assets were not able to take to the air. Even though Russians came in contact with the United States, there was a couple of firefights between us and Russian soldiers, whatever came. Especially their mercenaries, whatever. For the most part, we were able to contain Russia by having a no-fly zone. You send your shit up to the air, we're sinking your shit. You know what I'm saying? Okay, that can be established right now. They do not have the power to mess with the United States Air Force, our air assets. Our Navy alone has more firepower than the entire Russian Air Force. Okay, now you talk about the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force. All right, that right there would severely hamper Putin's ability, whatever, to push into the Ukraine. All right. Additionally, whatever. Okay. Now I'm not going to go into like old school practices of like naval blockades. But what they can do, okay, is prevent the Russian ships from returning back to port. And that right there is going to be a key, all right? Even though there is a treaty that says any returning warship can go back to port, okay? As we have seen with Putin being able to completely violate treaties, what you do, you now prevent his navy from returning back to port, all right? With that, with his naval force now being cut off, whatever, okay, they have no other choice, whatever, you know what I'm saying, but to then de-escalate and send their ships back to neutral countries, which completely takes them out of the equation as well. So now you eliminated the air power, you eliminated the sea power. All right, all you have left is the ground power, and guess what? That can be stopped just by, as we always do, through proxies.
And just right there, we're going to go to
Right.
comments, and we're going to hit up Rashawn and Specs, and then we're going to kind of transition to, with that, not because, of course, if he's thinking that way, there's going to be some politicians, there's going to be some generals out there who may think the same way. And then there's kind of, well, what happens if we got to roll into a World War III and that? So that's kind of transitioning there. But let's hit up the comments real quick.
And so Miss Toya chimed in. Great evening, Queens and Kings. Hi, Toya. And Humble Lion asked, he was asking, he made a couple comments before the chat started. Are they not showing? No, Humble Lion, they are not showing.
You're really interested in what you got to say.
Let us know, right? And so, all right, Cash, it seems to me that the West, Russia, and China are on the convergence of to compete over world dominance. I would wish, as Black people, that we could be in this competition.
You know what's interesting? Because I've been hearing him say that, like, everybody has a seat at the table, like that committee you was mentioning, Rashawn. Like, everybody's like, hey, and this is my opinion. And hey, this is my opinion. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to us, we're not even in the conversation. Like, we don't even get to, like, we don't even have any type of, power to be like, hey, and this is what we feel. Like, where's our voice? But
of course
we'll get
not.
to that in a second.
Listen. The closest African country that could have been a world power was Nigeria in the mid to late 90s, and they take their own fucking economy, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Listen,
Back to the drawing board.
people Africans have no say so in the world in world politics, regardless. You know what I'm saying? So
let's see. We've got Charmaine chiming in. I think this might be her first time joining us. So welcome to the family. And so she goes, those sanctions are a joke. So yeah. Big facts.
I agree with that. Sanctions are not a joke. Okay. First of all, the sanctions that have implemented in onto Russia, whatever, severely hampered their economy, whatever. Okay.
I want to interject real quick, Charles. I want to interject.
Hold on a second. Okay. The fact remains is that the sanctions were never put into fucking place to begin with. That's what everyone thinks. Oh, they're being sanctioned. No, they weren't. They were not being sanctioned. The sanctions are timed. Right. Okay. If the Russians do X, Y, and Z, these sanctions will not go into place. You, me, everyone else, whatever, don't hear about that. But you can take your ass to any of the UN websites. You can take you right to the State Department website, okay, and you'll find out that most of those sanctions were never put into place to begin with. They were threatened with sanctions. They were threatened with this type of sanction, threatened with that type of sanction. But the sanctions themselves were never put into place. If they're put into place, it still takes time for those sanctions. That's what
I was going to say. So if we're looking at immediate, right now, like, hey, this joker got to stop today. the sanctions, like you said, and thank you for explaining that, that's a process. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And of course, by tomorrow, 100 more people might have died, this, that, and the third.
Right.
Liz,
So with the sanctions, and I will read the comments, but with those sanctions, right? And so, and we get it. And I even mentioned it, right? The Russian people will feel it eventually. Russia will feel it eventually. In the meantime, the Ukraine will not exist by the time Russia's feeling it. What are we going to go back in time and fix it and say, okay, never mind, Ukraine exists again? It took how long the first time to break up the USSR?
I want to say this, and then we can get back to the comments. I love the fact, and there's been a meme I've been putting around, how it's a split screen with the president of Ukraine and then Ted Cruz. He's going to the airport, and the president of Ukraine.
Yeah. I saw that one.
On ready to do it. And then there's another joke saying basically that how, you know, America, NATO have offered to get the president and his family out of that area. And he says, I am not looking for a ride. I am looking for weapons. I'm like, oh, well, damn.
That part, right? Yes. Right. So, I mean,
go ahead, read the next comment. Yeah, go ahead.
Craziness. So Charmaine said exactly, Putin prepared for this. I mean, same thing, right? We're talking about the sanctions and how he controls the bank. So if somebody says, hey, Kia, we're going to freeze your bank account next month, like April 15th to the 20th, what are you going to do? Pull all your money out the bank? That's just common sense. You know what I mean? So, you know, I don't know about that one. A Facebook user said, this is 100% on China and Russia having their footprints in other countries. They prepared for this. Been preparing for generations. Yeah. And so Humble Lion says that Biden is seen as a weak president. He's a puppet, empty suit. Best believe these politicians got their money somewhere involved.
Yeah. A violin had been playing when that was going on. Yeah.
Argue that one. So Charmaine says Russia is the world's third largest crypto miner, and those have been unaffected by the sanctions.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting, and I think he's going to be talking about it this Tuesday when he does his Biden's going to do the address to the nation. He was trying to put some type of policies in place in reference to the crypto, but once again, these actions are going to be taking time. It's not something that's happening instantly. So while we're talking right now, bombs are being dropped.
Right. So somebody was asking thought on digital currency, Bitcoin, etc. I'll actually chime in on that one. And so as with most things, for whatever reason, we're late, right? Bitcoin and crypto has been around for a minute, and they've done absolutely nothing whatsoever to protect the little person who's throwing all their money behind it with no protections. They've done nothing to try to regulate or create any laws. And that's the reason it was invented, was to circumvent the laws that are in place, right? It was also created for your hitmen, for your, you know what I mean, for your terrorists, for your everything else. Everything about it was created for nefarious reasons. People didn't create Snapchat because, you know, they were trying to worship, right? So Snapchat and have it disappear in 45 seconds. It was created for nefarious reasons. But here we are playing catch up a decade too late. And you know, and going, well, what about that? What about it? Where you been? You know what I mean? So like, that's the issue.
But here's the flip side of Bitcoin. They were trying to make one world like currency, all that good stuff, right? They want to track how you buy, who you buy from. So Bitcoin is saying, I don't want the government in my pocket. So I should be able to buy this, and you shouldn't be able to tell me or watch me buy it. So you can use it for other things, but the base for it is, I don't want the government, because right now we're still working on, a lot of people don't even use cash anymore. They swipe. So when you swipe, you're tracked. What did you buy? When did you buy it? How often do you buy it? So there was algorithms built on that to sell you more stuff, but the government is watching that. So Bitcoin is like, I could send you money and they don't know it unless you transfer that into your account. Then they're like, okay, so I sent you $1 million, but you put $100,000 that in your account. So the government sees the $100,000. They don't see the other 900,000, right? So that's why you have crypto. That's why crypto works. So there's other reasons you can use it, but you have to understand it was put into place so government doesn't have to track everything that you do, because they do track everything you do.
Right. That's right.
Here's the next comment here.
So let's see. Humble Lion says sanctions on Russia have been going on for the past 3 or more years. So that's what Charles was talking about.
Those sanctions were never put into place. Those sanctions in the few that were put into place were initially started and then pulled.
Wasn't the Republican
Right.
Party pulled it? Was that true, Charles?
Okay, so you have to understand, sanctions are, it's not just the United States. Sanctions is the
Okay.
United States, it's Europe, it's all the other major trade partners, Australia, Japan, so forth and so on, whatever. So all these, so the G7, right? The G7 type countries, whatever, the 7 most strongest economies, whatever, they never put sanctions on Russia to begin with. So I don't know where people getting this BS from. They had sanctions on. No, they didn't. They were threatened with sanctions.
Mm.
That was it.
Mhm.
You have,
Right.
so before we get to the next comment, Rashawn. So currently, and I don't know who initiated. Maybe you know, Rashawn or Charles or Liz or Specs. So supposedly there's supposed to be negotiation talks now, currently with Ukraine and Russia. And I'm thinking maybe they're wanting these negotiation talks because Russia's like, wait a second, we had visions to overthrow you guys within 2 to 3 days, and now this thing is taking a little bit too long, and we might be looking like the laughing stocks. Do you think these negotiations are going to work, or you think it's just for show? What do you think?
Yeah. Because for one, right? Okay. 1991, when Ukraine gained their independence from Russia. That same year, Russia joined the NAC. The NAC is the National Atlantic Committee inside of NATO. 1992, Ukraine joined the NAC. So this whole thing was a joke to me from the beginning, because what is a committee? They're all together supposed to sit down and talk. So I just think this is one of them things where Putin, just my opinion, because they're all in this committee, and NATO is really about peace, keeping the peace. And they're on the committee, both of them. Okay, so it's like, this is just one of them instances where Putin may be mad, so he's like, okay, I'm gonna slap big little brother around, and I'm just gonna show you to remind you that who got the power, who got the juice, as if they don't know. But I'm gonna show you so I can remind you. Remember, you come from up under my wing, And I just think that's what they is, because they're on a committee inside of NATO. This is fact.
Yeah, but see, that committee is just an advisory committee. That committee is not a decision-making committee. That's the whole thing about it. So they get to talk and all that type of stuff, right? But they do not have voting power within NATO. They have no decision-making power. So I hear what you're saying, where in that regard.
It's like, it's about peace. So that the whole NATO thing is about keeping the peace between our elements.
We're gonna do these comments here, and we're gonna transition into a topic that's kind of ruffled some feathers. So let me
Another one.
All the feathers and mine.
Anna said hi, Auntie and Pops.
Hey, girl.
So, Paul chimed in. He says, but Europe was the one that was holding up and holding out. Some of the holding out too. So yeah.
Okay.
I read that wrong. I'm sorry. So
no worries.
And let's see. Linda said the current administration needs to reconsider opening up the Alaskan pipeline. America can be independent as far as fuel resources, and that would help 100%.
Well, I mean, yeah, America has the capability of being 100% independent with its fossil fuels. It does. Okay. We export about 90% of everything that we pump out to other countries, wherever, and then we import in from other countries, wherever. It's just crazy. I take money from this and I give money to that type of situation, whatever. It's crazy how international trade works. The fact remains is that as for anything with the Alaska pipeline, it is detrimental to the environment.
Yeah, okay? That's what I thought.
And we've already played loosey goosey with the environment, and that's why in January it hit 64 degrees in January. What the hell? 64 degrees in January in New York. You know what I'm saying? Are you insane?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Oh, no such thing as global warming. Fucking motherfucker, please. There's fucking global warming. You know what I'm saying?
Well, intentional.
Let's talk about it.
So let's not play loosey goosey with the environment anymore. What I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
So, Humble Lion said, this is what's not being reported. Ukraine and the good old United States were trying to build nuclear weapon power plants on the border of Ukraine and Russia. Putin said, hell no, and rightfully so.
I didn't know that, but you know him and Lion be getting that other news. I'll be like, you better send me them links. Don't be holding it.
Ain't reading that Moscow time, maybe.
Moscow time. Oh, no.
Moscow Times.
Yeah, I don't play into conspiracy theories, and that's one of the crazy conspiracy theories we're out there. Okay, Ukraine has been shutting down all the nuclear power plants. Okay, due to the incident that happened at Chernobyl and another small leak that happened at another nuclear site that happened in the Ukraine. Whatever. Okay?
Glad you mentioned that.
They're shutting their sites down. Okay, in order for them to join NATO, guess what? They can't have nuclear power plants because EU is nuclear free. So I know. Come on.
I still want to know what website that was on, but go ahead, Liz, read that.
Yeah. Those are cuckoo websites.
So each of the United States have to do that. They have to coordinate with Europe also. So, right, there's certain things that we can't just go over there and do, right? And so Humble Lion said that's like a country that we're at odds with coming and setting up nuclear plants on the border of Mexico or Canada. Would the U.S. allow that? Hell no.
Right. The next one.
Yeah, so Paul says
each time you see it.
Okay, gotcha. Each time the United States have to do sanctions, they have to coordinate that with other countries too, right? We're not alone. We can't just decide, fuck Russia and be good with that. Like we got some work to do.
So to kind of move this conversation along, right? I remember this morning waking up and seeing, because you can get the actual news, from your TV and and everything and the internet. But then, of course, the people who are there, they have their live footage, they have their live feeds and their experiences. And of course, when you're seeing little babies get hurt, little children, I love the fact that they had like Miss Universe of Ukraine. She put her hair back in a ponytail, put her little AK in her hand. I was like, okay. Like she took the pageantry heels off and you see the real lifetime, struggles. And some people are like, hey, to be free, you got to fight for your freedom. And I'm going to be here for my country. And I commend those individuals. But one thing that was very heartbreaking for me to see as well was the fact that there are people who are trying to leave Ukraine and they are not of European descent. These are Africans, Nigerians, and such. They came to Ukraine for school and studies, and they're wanting to get out too. I seen a couple of clips where on the train they were trying to get on, and the people would not let them on. So you may think to yourself, well, maybe the train was full, maybe the train wasn't. You've seen some other clips where people were not trying to get on the train, and they were actually walking for miles and miles, 36 miles, one person said, and the Polish soldiers were like, no, we're not taking you. They said one individual made the comment of saying, we're letting the Ukrainians in because these are engineers, these are doctors, they are technicians, they are lawyers, they can contribute to our society. We're going to take these refugees in. We cannot take other refugees in that don't contribute. And it makes you kind of think, well, how the fuck do you know if just because my skin is this color, I can't contribute? Like, I'm just trying to go home, which they have the right to because they are not Ukrainian. So a lot of people are like, look at this. Racism is even occurring while the whole fucking place is burning to hell. What is your opinion on that, guys? I know I'm going to save you last, Charles, because you had a real explosive one. I was like, oh, what is your opinion, Liz? And we could just kind of go down.
There's nothing new. I'm sorry. Oh, you're gonna, okay.
Actually, let's jump in. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I was saying that's nothing new. Well, World War II, when soldiers fought and came back and still had segregation. Right. When you have bigotry and racism, has nothing to do with war. It's still a thing. So it's par for the course.
Right.
This is nothing new. It's just it is what it is. Like it's been like that my whole life, and I'm not 300, so it's always been a thing. So I'm not surprised when the sun rises and I see the moon at night. So I'm not surprised that there's racism still in the world.
Yeah, even
so we still have to combat it. We still have to confront it. I'm not saying we don't. Bring it to light and then confront it. But surprised that it happened? Nah, not at all.
Go ahead, Liz.
I mean, so here's the thing, right? If I'm not mistaken, there's about 5,600 Nigerians that were in the Ukraine, and then when asked about it, the leader, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Nigeria was just like, well, it's too late now. This was yesterday. Well, clearly it's too late now. I mean, right? And so, of course, there's racism in everything. Let's not be naive to that. But at the end of the day, we saw this coming, and the first thing that we did as Americans was said, hey, Americans, get the fuck out, right? And then another day later, we said, hey, Americans, if you didn't hear us the first time, get the fuck out. And then they said to the people that were, essential personnel, they said, you're not listening. Get the fuck out, right? That's what we did to look out for our own people. If Americans were still there right now and they were trying to get into Poland and this, that, and the third, and Poland decided, because they have the right to decide who they're letting into their country, they're like, nah, right now we're only helping Ukraine. Really, as Americans, could we be that mad about it? Our government looked out for us and told us to come home, to get out, and we should have taken heed to that. Now being mad at Poland because Poland won't let Americans in because they prefer to help Ukrainians, given that it's a Ukrainian situation, that's Poland's prerogative.
I got something to say.
I'm going to be honest about it. Nigeria should have told their people to get the fuck out.
Ooh, Jesus. I'm just going to say, what's going on
one
in
of the few
humanity?
times I agree with Liz. Okay. All right. So
what day is today?
Let's talk
February
visas.
27th. Write that one down, y'all.
Yeah, hell just froze.
All right.
All right. So basically, okay. Racism on an individual level, racism on a governmental level, that will always exist. You will never get rid of that. Okay. Nationalism will always exist. Classism will always exist in some form or fashion. You can never get rid of it. Black people can get mad in the day, they can march, protest, blah, 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 blah. It's never fucking going away. What you can do is be proactive. All right. And the Nigerian government, knowing that country is being invaded, did nothing. And I repeat, nothing to get their people out of that country. Okay. You have a responsibility, okay, to know that when your country's being fucking invaded, all right, to get your people out of that. And African countries are notoriously slow. African countries are notoriously reactionary. Okay, way too reactionary. Okay, like 5, 6, 7, 8 days reactionary. Okay, they're always behind the power curve, whatever. All right, Egypt, which is a country in Africa that we all know, whatever, it's a Middle Eastern country, all right, but it's a country in Africa. Guess what? They sent an aircraft over there to get their fucking people out. They made arrangements with Hungary, okay, so that their people can go to the border, okay, and there's visas waiting for them at the border, okay. So why are the Nigerian foreign exchange students stuck in Hungary? Because Nigeria had his pants down around his fucking ankles and wasn't fucking paying attention. That's the reason why. The country did not look after its people. That's the fucking bottom line. Get your fucking people the visas that they fucking need to get the fuck out.
The country, right?
Okay, that's the bottom line.
What's your response on that, Rashawn, in regards to the the racism that the Nigerians are facing?
Look, right. When we think about
come now, brother. You
I
got a tough argument to come that way.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell you, right. We gotta understand something. We talk about Europe. This is just my whole perspective when you talk about Europe and Africa. We are kings and queens, whether we slow on reaction to a lot of things, because we live in our people are in their own world dealing with their own problems in that continent. Europeans are Vikings, bro. So it don't matter like what's going on. They're gonna still they're Vikings against each other.
Yes.
They're Vikings. We'll come from kings and queens. I'm sorry, I call it. It is what it is.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize.
They're Vikings. That's what it is. When we speak about our culture, we proud. We proud. Whether we could be angry at our brothers and sisters, we could be angry at our Nigerian brothers and sisters and angry at them for not responding like they should, because they're thinking about education. They're proud to be able to get education.
I'm sorry, Rashawn, brother. I'm gonna have to disagree with you. That's the reason why we're in this situation that we're in to this day. Okay, we give our people too much fucking slack. I give our people no slack.
Right.
They get no.
No,
not one
I
inch.
feel
They get a
you on that.
millimeter. They don't get a fucking centimeter. They get nothing from me. Okay, you
I
have
feel
to come
you
with
on
your A game at all times, brother. I'm sorry, and I'm disagreeing with you again. We were not all kings and queens in Africa. Who the fuck was farming? Who the fuck was in the mines? Who the fuck was doing everything else? No, we were not kings and queens. Okay,
Now, I gotta stop you right there. I gotta stop you right there, my brother. I gotta stop you right there, my brother.
Okay, if everyone was kings and queens, who was doing all the fucking work in Africa?
Hold on.
Everyone's kings and queens. Who's doing all the work? Who's
Hold
farming?
on.
Your asses
Let me
are all
reel
descendants
you
of fucking farmers.
back for a minute, my brother.
Farmers.
Listen,
Your people were farmers.
listen, my brother. Do you know who the Moors are? Do you know who the Moors are?
Yes, I know.
All right, my brother.
Yeah, and they were farmers.
So hold on. So what did the Moors do for everybody around this, every nation? What did the Moors do?
They taught them.
They taught them. They taught the Europeans how to farm. They taught the Europeans how to keep their.
Not every Moor was a king. Not every Moor was.
No, I didn't say that. But I said we are kings and queens. Not every one of us.
The Almorvids. Okay, you had three major invasions of Moors into Europe. Okay, in 711 AD with Tariq al-Ziyar. Okay, those Moors, 14,000 Moors took over the entire country. How were they able to do that? Because they had technology the Europeans didn't have. But guess what? When they settled into Spain, they came with the fucking farmers. They came with the construction workers. They were not kings and queens. You had
my brother, we didn't have technology back then, brother. We had our brains. It was no technology, my brother. It was brains we had. So when you think about the Moors, my brother, we gotta give ourselves props. We can't keep shooting. This is the problem. We can't keep shooting ourselves down for every little thing, but we give the white man slack on a lot of things.
White man slack for shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll give up people slack.
We can't keep hard on ourselves.
Wait.
All that back to Africa.
We gotta give ourselves some props now. Because if the kids watching right now, they say the Moors that shit and they didn't do nothing, that's not right.
I'm about the truth. The truth.
All right. But
wait. I gotta say this real quick, a disclaimer. So I started the conversation prior to the show starting. I said, when it comes to certain topics, I'll bring Charles out for the history and stuff. There's certain topics, regardless of what your opinion is. Just, my brother, that's my brother, my actual blood brother. You'll never win the conversation. So even if you believe it, no, And with that being said, I'm gonna say this. From my brother help raising me all the way to currently now, I can say that he gives zero tolerance when it comes to African American, just black people in general, and zero tolerance to white people. So he's very black and white with it. Yeah. So I don't want to have to stay on that conversation too long. Right. That's why Specs got his potato chips and started.
I already knew. I was like, okay.
You didn't know. I didn't tell you because you say the word.
I mean, I feel him 100%.
I had zero tolerance, but him, it's like -0. He's like, oh, well, what? Wait, what? I saw it coming. I was like, oh.
He just put his hand on his head. Let's go to the conversation.
Needed some popcorn. That's what I needed.
Wait. Here we go. So I think it's our last here.
All right. So Himalayan, I think we were back still like a couple chapters ago, if you would. He said, nah, bro, I work with the military personnel every day. No satire, website, or conspiracy. The term conspiracy theory was coined by the CIA. I think he was responding to Charles kind of mentioning.
Here we go. I'm glad Himalayan's not on the show. It's Charles.
I'm not going to even respond to that. That's not worth my time or energy.
Oh, Lord Jesus, unfiltered.
So, Mark said, racism, it's still a thing. T-shirt Liz, I got you. Mark stay tuned. Like, stay tuned. So, what is it? Rachel always says, "Watch this space." So,
Go
all
ahead.
right. Cash said, as Liz framed it, I think it's more about people taking care of themselves first. Right. The way those white people feel is not that I hate you, it's just I love me. Exactly. So that's what we were talking about, Poland deciding who they want in their country and
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Marcus dying and his specs with his head down. He got specs so stupid.
Pulled out. I wish I had some. I was looking around for some popcorn. I'm like, this don't go. I'm going to answer this question actually. Read it, Liz.
Let me say, why y'all so angry?
Let me answer, Charles. Mark, I just want to let you know that it's not that he's angry, he's passionate. I'll say that. My brother is passionate about stuff. So it seems, if you don't know him, actually, you guys, let me introduce you. He is Cash's brother, and this is your brother-in-law. So you're both you gotta meet your family, okay?
Well, we're having our back and forth. Z chimed in where the world starts.
Forget about Russia and Ukraine.
So, Lion said, Black folks are not about dismantling white supremacy. They just want to be comfortable under it. So
I'm going to say this real quick, just so that one last thing. He said,
so Mark saying to Charles, what up, bro?
What up, bro? With that being said, I wanted just to say, when it comes to both, I always see both perspectives. So I do know that when it comes to taking care of your own, being proactive instead of reactionary is definitely key. I don't live in Ukraine, and I knew that some shit was about to pop off. And when you smell a jump, that's when you're like, well, wait a second. You ain't finna get your ass beat. You bounce, one way or the other. You don't wait until the ass whoop is at the door. Also, with that being said, though, I do feel that when we're in situations, and this is going to kind of pivot into our prepping, our last little minutes within the show about if something did go down, when you are in a crisis, you still try to maintain your humanity. Meaning, if everyone said right now, hey, pick up and run, in the process of you running, are you running over the crippled child? Or are you going to at least try to drag the person with you while you're in the process? I mean, there are ways, of course, when it comes to the first law of preservation, that's self. So you have to be able to look out for yourself and for your family. But if we can still maintain some type of dignity, definitely. I mean, I per se, kind of listen to what my brother always taught me. If you realize that there's a target on your back to begin with, you wouldn't move in certain realms, right? If you felt already that,
right,
shit's about to go down, they're going to take care of their people first. You are the last on the totem pole. I'm letting you know right now while we're going into the prepping conversation. If shit was to pop off right this second in America, in the United States, the last people on this totem pole would be people that had this color skin. And they be looking around and they be like, wait, what's going on? What should I do? Ooh, because we are not prepared. So going into the whole prepping, and I'm a big prepper, for those of you who don't know, I definitely feel it's very important, especially now in these times. What would World War III, how would we know, Charles, Rashawn, Specs, Liz, how would we know that this is it? We are entering World War III. And how would one prepare? Because you don't prepare for World War III the same way you prepare for a hurricane, right? You don't need your umbrella. You don't need, certain things. So how would one prepare? Does anybody want to jump on that one?
So we're not going to know it's World War III until after the fact.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
World War II until afterwards. History decided that it was World War II. And that only came after we decided way later that there was a World War I to begin with, right? We didn't call it one until it was two. We didn't call it two until it was over. You know what I mean? So we're not going to know.
First World War was called the Great War.
It was called the Great War, right? Now it's only known as World War I, and we only call it that because we know it's, it's followed by World War II, and we didn't know that until it was over either. You know what I mean? So we're not going to know World War III happened until our kids are writing about it. Our kids are writing about it in the history books.
But how does, because of course when shit went, because I'm assuming now that we're in 2022, Rashawn, we got cyber attacks. People are waiting to see how that looks. Someone mentioned earlier about the crypto and these things. I know that Putin does control the electrical grid over there. And guess what? It affects
Yeah.
Poland. And Poland is a part of NATO. And if you affect NATO, then guess what? Now America's indirectly brought in even more. What do we need just in case this does come over into our shores? Anything in particular?
Well,
I mean, and one last thing. I'm sorry
well,
to
I'm
overtalk. I was going to
I'm
say there is a shortage now on gas masks. So I know people panic. Even if you guys don't panic out there, people do panic. So just like you're like, man, where do I get these items from? You know, what do you need to have on deck? What do you need to have on hand?
Well, to be honest with you,
well.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I was going to answer the first question, which was how would you know? The one thing that Russia and China does have, and we do too, is access to our power grids. That's years ago, right? So one thing you know it's really escalating is when they start shutting down the power grids because they can do it. They just don't do it because it's war when you do that because that's a sign of war. So we don't do it and they don't do it. If you start seeing our power grid shut down, we at war. So that's your indicator right there. If Texas shut down and then the East Coast shut down, and then from that, the other power grids will try to pull from that, and then of course they will shut down. So whereas really only three, but if you shut down like a coast and a coast in Texas, the other ones will just cycle down.
Right.
If that happens, we're at war. Know that. If that happens, and we're at war. So that's your indicator. It doesn't need to be a bomb drop. Once that happens, all bets are off. Have your stuff ready. You might want to, what they say, like blank out and go someplace, but you might focus in on sheltering in place first because you need shelter. A lot of people think I want to backpack and go camping. No, you don't. No, you don't. You really don't. You want to have shelter because people that run certain places still try to find a building because you got the elements and you got other people because other people are going to try to take your stuff. So you need to learn how to shelter where you are or find a place to shelter. So that's your thing. But first thing is going to be power grid. Look for that. If they start shutting down hospitals or like in Baltimore, what was it, like 2 years ago, where they shut down City Hall for like 3 weeks? So they couldn't run bills. You couldn't pay tickets. You couldn't pay nothing in Baltimore. You start seeing that happen to cities, that firmware, and then power shutting down, we're at war.
What about you? What
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm finished.
Yeah, I'm with them on that. Like, seek shelter. If you got, I'm looking like you got your basement, you better go down there. And I mean, right. Seriously, ever since if nothing else, when the COVID kicked off, people should have started waking up then. Start stashing, putting supplies in your basement if you got a basement. Get some of them rations from the military. Go order that stuff. Get your arms together. Get bare your arms, and just be ready. Because food, shelter, that's what you need to have, and have your weapons up. Because it's gonna go down because the freak's gonna come out.
What does it look like to you, Charles, in regards to how would you know it was a war, and what would you do to prepare?
So there's the first two things you have to look at it. There's a nuclear World War III, and then there's a non-nuclear World War III. All right. A lot of people think, oh, they got nukes, we got nukes, they launch us, they launch on them, whatever. Yeah, that's always a possibility. All right. There's also a limited exchange, a limitation to World War III where, they're not going to use nukes. All right. And there's a precedent for that. Because why? You launch your nukes, we launch our nukes, our allies launch their nukes. Okay. Right. And then everything's going to fucking hell. And there are people, whatever, who have that mentality. Fuck it. I'm going to burn the entire fucking world out. I'm not going to lose. Right. If we're talking about a nuclear World War III, nothing you do will prepare you for what's going to fucking happen. You can be the best prepper in the world unless you have an underground bunker with a filtration system, anti-radiation gear, medication, the whole 9 yards. those will only be the people who will be able to survive. The average person, whatever, even people who are prepared for, like, such as myself, whatever. Okay, I have a place I can go. All right.
That means me
Something
too.
happens, whatever. I can take my ass right to the Catskills, whatever. Okay, I got a place I can go, whatever. It's up in the mountains, whatever. Okay, with military buddies who are armed. And okay, all right.
I'll be
All
there
right.
too.
Well, first you gotta make it from Florida.
I
Okay?
will. I smell the seaweeds. I'll be supposed to be seeing these
Can
alone.
you make it from Florida? All right. So that is the that is the first scenario. If it's a nuclear World War III, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? It's there's nothing you're gonna do. Whatever I'm saying. Okay. You're talking about 1% of the population fucking surviving. All right. If it's a non-nuclear World War III, okay, we're gonna do this, whatever. So we're gonna go at it, whatever, right? But we're not gonna go ahead and launch nuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles against each other or whatever, right? Okay, there's a lot of presence for survival. Can anyone invade the United States? Right now, the answer is no. They cannot invade the United States. The 7th Fleet is larger. The 7th Fleet, that's one fleet in the United States entire fleet, okay? One fleet, the 7th Fleet, can sink the entire Chinese Navy. They cannot land their troops over here. Can Russia bring their troops over here, whatever? Yes, they could. Through Siberia, into Alaska, down through Canada. Can they beat the Canadian Army? Will we intercept them prior to even getting over here? Yes, we will. Okay, so now you're talking about, can Russia send ground troops through or China send ground troops through Canada down into the United States? The answer is technically yes, but we will stop them there as well. Okay, so America being invaded by Russia or China is a very far-fetched crazy fucking idea. Okay, I know people like to make the movie Red Dawn with Cuban and Russian troops parachuting from the airlines attacking the Midwest. That shit ain't gonna fucking happen, right? It's not gonna fucking happen. All right. What you will see here in the United States, whatever, okay, is a fucking homegrown fucking insurrection. That's what you need to be more worried about. All right. All them crazy asses in Idaho, them crazy asses in Minnesota, the QAnons, okay. The Republican assets of Russia, okay, those guys who are out there applauding Putin, you know what I'm saying, Putin, those are the ones you need to worry about, okay, because you're not going to see Chinese soldiers on U.S. soil,
right?
Okay, the population of the United States is too heavily armed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, imagine a Russian unit or a Chinese unit going into Crenshaw or going into Long Beach. You think that shit's gonna fucking happen?
No.
Imagine
going into Chicago,
going up into Louisiana. Okay, you think that's gonna happen? No, it's not gonna happen.
Go ahead, Liz.
What you will see is that there's more a possibility of Soviet or Chinese assets starting a insurrection in this country than you will see actual Chinese soldiers or Russian soldiers on U.S. soil.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was talking to Liz like, man, we got people. I got the KGB and all types of spies and all types of stuff planted in here. I know I watched that movie Salt. They planted. Oh, go ahead, Liz.
I mean, but and it's so funny that Charles, you said that, right? Because and this is the wrong panel, if we're being honest, to have this conversation. But I promise, if you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, I have a question, and I mean a genuine question, and it goes right back to what Charles was just saying, right? It's going to come from within. They're not going to get us from without, and they are working on it. It's not. That's what they're going to do. It's what they are doing, right? So here's my thing.
Like they're working on it now.
They've been working on it, right? So and I'm being sincere. Like I'm humble enough to admit when I don't understand something, and I don't understand, right? I'm looking at the Republican Party, right? And the Republican Party of the 80s propped Ronald Reagan up as this god, And what made him this sexy superhero that they just still can't get enough of, even though he's been dead for a while, was, you know, the whole Mr. Gorbachev's here down this wall, right? And he got credited for breaking down the USSR and everything else. And that is what they absolutely reviled. I mean, like they revered him for, right? It was like the biggest thing ever. He's the superhero, not to be messed with or touched with, no matter what he did wrong. He saved the world from the Soviet threat, right? So that was a thing. Then you have just a few years later, you had good old W said that, you know, when he looked into Putin's eyes, he saw pure evil. Still Republicans, right? That was their whole thing, right? A couple years after that, you had Mitt Romney say to Obama, and we all kind of chuckled about it. I know everybody on the panel is probably guilty of that. When Mitt Romney said, yo, y'all watch for Russia. And Obama responded, Russia? Who's Russia? Right? But again, that was the Republican Party. So they've been on their radar. How did we get here? Right now, where it's the Republican Party, where Trump thinks that Putin's this genius, they've all gotten behind it. They write love songs to Putin.
Propaganda.
Fox News
Propaganda.
is saying, like, you know, we should be cheering Russia on. We should be siding with Russia. How is it the same Republicans? So, I mean, and I get it. This isn't the right panel for it. But again, if you know somebody that knows somebody, let me know.
No. It's propaganda. I used to work in media. So, all right, music. So we used to say we don't make the hits, we play the hits, which is bullshit. We made the hits. So a power song is a song they play every 90 minutes, right? So you ever been singing a song in your head that you really didn't like, but you singing a hook, and eventually you sing it, and you ask yourself, why in the hell am I singing the song?
I know all the
right?
words to that song. I hate it.
So propaganda works like that. You'll see something, you'll hear something, and you won't pay attention to it. But subconsciously, your mind sees and pays attention to everything. Your conscious mind doesn't, but your subconscious mind does. So what happens is when you see it, hear it, if you see it or hear it enough, it's correct. Your mind says it must be real, it must be correct. So that's why you keep on putting stuff. So what Putin did with social media was, we're going to do this. We're going to take these people, put them against these people, and then say this and say that. So whatever this and that is, that's what they did. And then you see how people changed slowly, but they changed. So they were like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, this is wait, this is right. What? So, and that worked. But that's propaganda. That's how it works. It's always worked. Social media is just faster. So now you got people at one time that was saying Russia is bad and our communists till we love Putin. And then put a pin in it. Now you got this dude that's a playboy that, is kind of stupid, but it's a playboy. And now loses all this money, is in debt. Who finances him? Russia. So now they prop him up. And then so they're putting that thing, you should run. So now they're hoping with his campaign and social media. So now people are like, yeah, he a rock star. Because as Americans, we have that rock star mentality. The KGB knows that. Russia knows that. So they use that. So now he's saying Russia's good. So now they following him like, you good, Russia good. You good, Russia good. Propaganda. So it's real simple because I've done it before. I know how to do it. So when I seen it, I was like, yo. Go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. Before we get to the comments, I just want to say thank you for mentioning that, Charles and Liz and Rashawn and Specs. But with that being said, I don't know what day, maybe one of you guys know the day, there's supposed to be some type of protest at the Capitol. The truckers are actually going to be there at the Capitol. Does anybody know what day that's supposed to take place?
They're supposedly on the move now.
What do you mean, the which truck? The Freedom Convoy?
The same truckers that were in Canada. They're now going to be down in DC sometime.
I thought they would have been there already. Because that was talks like 2 weeks ago, and they were supposed to hit the Super Bowl, but then some changed. So
okay.
They just got arrested in Canada. That's why.
Oh, they got arrested in Canada.
but
yeah,
it was
they towed on the trucks and they arrested all of them.
It was a whole other convoy being put together here in the United States.
Yeah, they said they were going to do something here.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how would that affect what's going on. But let's go ahead and hit these comments up real quick to wrap everything up.
And so he says, Humble Lion says the CDC needs to be a satire website. It's not what it used to be. I'll agree. Humble Lion said spiritual connection in relationship to the Most High is the ultimate prep. I know preppers who were prepared for all types of events and they were still killed. Let's not get Charles started.
No,
We got
say,
it.
say, Charles.
Let's not get Charles started. All right,
Hush,
so Humble
Charles.
Lion said the elites will survive. They have bunkers. And
Wait 1 second. Sorry.
then he says you won't see Chinese soldiers on U.S. soil, but it will be our own in the UN against its citizens.
The UN doesn't have an army.
They don't
Next.
have weapons. So, and he chimed in with Owen Rashawn later on the Moors, they sold us out, but that's for another day. I don't think it's for another day. I mean, we can
The
dive
Moors
deep.
didn't sell anybody out. There was no such thing as the Moors. The Moors is a post-fabrication of modern-day Pan-Africanism, okay? The Moors, there was no such thing as the fucking Moors. You had the Almoravids, that was their name. The Almoravids, that was their name, okay? Use their name, okay? Not the fucking Moors, all right?
So,
use their fucking name. If you're going to study history, then fucking use their name.
I don't know, right? So check this out. I know what you were saying with regard
So,
to the whole,
so
we're
you
not
believe in him. That story is a lie then.
They call themselves the Moors. Did they call themselves the Moors? No,
They
they
use a
fucking did.
different language, so
They
they're not
did
going to
not
call
call
themselves
themselves the
call them
fucking
at all.
Moors.
Woo!
Who called,
The Moors
who
is
called themselves the
a
Moors?
post-fabricated fucking name. They never called themselves the Moors.
It's a whole different language, so of course they never call themselves that. Literally,
Okay,
Jews
right.
don't call
So that's
themselves
something that
Jews
we
either.
fabricated. We fabricated that. We
The Moors, we made up
They're
the word that we made that up.
Call
No,
them
no,
by
no,
their
no, no,
fucking
no.
names.
He's not. So I think what the point before the point gets missed, I think what he's trying to say is not that so Humble Lion's comment was like, hey, they sold out, blah, blah, blah. I think what the point is that the naming of what they were titled. So the Moors didn't call themselves the Moors. We were the ones who created that name of them. Just like, for instance, I think Africa wasn't even supposed to be spelled Africa. Like the naming is
No,
what the issue was. You know, we could go into the naming on a whole nother topic. You know, there was never the letter J, but we call him Jesus. It was supposed to be Yeshua. I mean, there's so many different things when it comes
Right,
to
it's
the
a whole different language from a whole different
Yeah,
time
yeah, yeah,
frame.
yeah.
As of today,
Right,
we refer to
but
them as the Moors, and that's what
There
it
was
is.
3 invasions. There was 3 invasions of Europe
Yeah.
by African people. There were these 3 invasions were totally fucking unrelated. Okay, there was not this one big Moorish movement, whatever. Okay, no, that's all Pan-Africanism shit that came later.
But with that being said, just to kind of rally it back in, because that's a whole nother topic. And I know in reference, I must put it out there. I know when it comes to calling us by our rightful name, you know, Charles is definitely passionate about that. He'll start fussing at me. I'm like, black, what's it called? Black America and all types of different things. And he's like, stop calling yourself that. That's the stuff that they created, you know. So I totally understand in reference to calling people by their correct name, but we have to get
They
that.
were called the Berbers. The Berbers. That's what they were called first. And somehow the Moors got tied in. Somehow, but that wasn't nothing that this country came up with.
No. And with that being said, like I said, that's a whole other topic on who to call and the power of a name and this, that, and the third. I just want to put it out there before I do last words with Liz. You know, at the end of the day, I'm very glad that social media is relevant in this situation, because if you're not turning on the TV, you do have the news right in the palm of your hands, and you're able to kind of look to see what's going on when it comes to current events and how it may affect you. You know, you may sit there, you know, you're in your mom's house, you know, living under her roof, and you're like, what does it got to do with me? Well, like you mentioned in the beginning, Rashawn, about the gas prices, if they're not going up now, they're going to be going up even more. I know they stated within the next 72 hours, we're going to find out what the negotiations are with Ukraine and the negotiation with and Russia. So we're going to see that and see what the next moves are. I know one last comment that came in was from Humble Lion. Says, all I got to say is Queen Elizabeth. With that being said, like I said, that's a whole nother topic, but just bringing it back to what's happening here. Guys, just stay alert, stay ready, stay prepared so you don't have to get ready. And don't panic, but just be aware of your situations. I want to thank everybody that came on. I always say thank you, Charles. Every time you come on the show, my ratings go all the way up because people got stuff. People tell me that they be yelling at the screen like this. I know this nigga ain't saying it. But thank you. And thank you, Rashawn. I know I'm going to bring you back on the show because you have your own podcast. And we're going to be talking about incarceration, in America, mass incarceration. That's definitely a topic that needs to be touched. And where can people go to your actual podcast at?
My YouTube channel is Space Invaders, spelled SPYCEINVADERZ. Space Invaders. That's on YouTube, and we talk about a lot of different things. Just recently, the other day, I just did a docu of the Underground Railroad in Halifax County, North Carolina. So that's the most recent thing. But I talk about a lot of different issues as well as you guys do, world, national, and local. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And then let's go ahead and bring it to last words with Liz.
All right, so once again, we had the comment section was popping off tonight. We had on-air fights, we had all kinds of stuff, but it is always good to get more perspective and to get different points of view. I always say you can't grow from an echo chamber. You know what I mean? So having different, offering different opinions and different perspectives on things that are going on is always going to be important. I know we talked a lot about Ukraine tonight, and let me also say that our hearts are with the people of Ukraine and anybody anywhere that is being hurt by just greed and violence. And I mean that for anywhere. I'm talking about the hood, you know what I mean? I'm talking about everywhere, right? So, our hearts are with them, our prayers are with them. I wish we were doing a little bit more so they didn't have to suffer through it, but that's kind of what it is. And I never actually got to speak on it. And I know that Rashawn had brought up that, the whole kings and queens versus the Vikings. I don't necessarily think that he meant to say that everybody in Africa was a king and queen, no more than all the Vikings were warriors, right? But at the end of the day, if you understand your history and from which you descend, then you can appreciate the current and what's going to happen in the future, right? And so at the end of the day, when we grow a civilization, it's a tribute to the kings and the queens and the warriors and the leaders of that tribe. Clearly, in any civilization, you need the workers and the underdogs in order to prop them up. But the credit goes to those that are in charge. And as we're talking about that and thinking about that, let's not be so cocky that we think that the United States cannot fall and that it's always going to be the greatest and bestest ever. The Egyptians thought the same way. The Romans thought the same way. There has been an end to every great civilization. So stay awake. Not just woke, but awake and active, right? Don't wake up and lay in bed on your phone like, what's happening out there? Get up and do something. Start with educating yourself. More importantly, educate your children, because we have got to know what's going on. They stopped teaching history for a reason, and we better not let that slide, right? Anyhow, just wanted to let that out there. Those are my last words on the podcast. But I will say, guys, today is February 27th. It is the day before the last day of the shortest month of the year, which is what they gave to us as Black History Month, right? And so you guys know, long before Kanye said it, I said we should call it Black Future Month, right? And so, and it should not be limited to 28 days. But as of right now, that's what we'll take and we'll run with it. And what I have done and asked you guys for help with is investing in our youth, right? So if we believe that there is a Black future, we have to invest in it in order to make it happen. No one else is coming to invest in our people or in our kids, right? So guys, if you can, please go to grownhonestconcepts.com, pick up any shirt. It's not limited to one design this year. Any shirt that you buy from my website, any single design, Mark, I got you. That racism is still a thing. I'm coming for you, right? And so every single shirt I sell, $5 from it will go towards paying for books for a current minority college student. So I'm taking nominations. If you know somebody that's in school that's deserving, holla at your girl. And if you can, just buy a shirt, contribute, whatever it is. Until tomorrow, every single shirt that I sell, $5 will go towards that. And later in the spring, early summer, before they go back to school, we will be presenting that to a member of our future. So I'm excited about it. Thank you for everybody that's already contributed. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We love you.
Yes, you know, last 2 comments, and then that's it. We got
Lion said more Charles. So we got
Charles,
a
Charles. Rage Against the Machine.
Oh Lord Jesus.
and then he said facts. And so you're talking about
Yes.
investing in
But
our
thank
youth.
you
So
guys. Please, please,
All
please
right.
be
Thank
safe. Be safe, be safe, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Right. Later.